Hello and welcome to the Non-Perfect Parents Club podcast. I'm Emma, a mama of 2 girls, an ex-nursery practitioner and the creator of the Non-Perfect Parents Club. The Non-Perfect Parents Club is all about support, honesty, truths, acknowledging that none of us can be perfect parents because it's impossible, and basically just speaking the unspoken. The only rule here is no judgment allowed. I love hearing people's stories. I love finding out about other parents, their family dynamics, their values and how they tick. So that is what this podcast is going to be. Some great honest conversations about parenting, hopefully delving into some nitty-gritty thoughts and feelings that will make us all laugh, cry and sigh a big sigh of relief. Hello and welcome back to the Non-Perfect Parents Club podcast. Today I'm joined by Gemma. Hi Gemma and welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, thank you.
So you have actually been requested to come on this podcast by one of our listeners. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions right there. I think that alone would be a podcast.
You do know her, so...
That's even worrying, isn't it? Even more worrying, I think.
So if you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your family dynamic and any heritage.
Yeah, okay. I'm Gemma, mum of 3 children who are 8, 6 and 4. Just this is tricky because just a regular mum, nothing too exciting to report. Work part-time, fit around the kids. I'm very fortunate with my job that I can juggle. And yeah, their dad and I are separated. That's all fine, all amicable, and we're really lucky to have my family who do so much for us, my mum, my dad and my sister. So we're really close, really tight, and the kids, well, we live around the corner, so they're often at their house instead of mine. It works really well. But my mum does keep threatening to lock the door, so...
She says that.
Yeah. No, I think she'll do it. So yeah, that's just us.
Cool. The main rule of the Non-Perfect Parents Club is no judgment allowed. Have you ever felt judged in your parenting, and can you tell us about it?
I judge myself. I need no help from anyone else. But yeah, there's always going to be a million stories, but I don't always know if it's in my head from my thought process, if I don't know, someone's comment can be taken the wrong way because of where I am in the day, but to be fair, there's one that really sticks out, and it was from someone that I struggle with anyway, and I'd nipped out. Now, previous to our separation, I hadn't really spent any time away from the kids, like they were my shadows. And this one day I'd nipped into Lancaster with my mum, just for an hour or so. It was, nothing too exciting. But I had a jumper on. Now, this jumper was my absolute favourite, and all it says across it is motherhood. And I just thought it was wonderful. The minute my 3rd child, because I'd only just got the jumper, was born, I had it on in hospital. Like, I loved this jumper. It was just everything. Anyway, so we put it on, saw these friends, stopped, said hi, did the pleasantries, it was all wonderful. She just went, "Oh, motherhood, hey? Without the kids?" And I was like, oh, like a knife to the heart. It took me right down. And I know she didn't mean it, and I know because she probably hadn't had time away from the kids. She didn't know my story, my situation, and I get that. But in that moment of all that I have struggled with in my journey as a mother, it caught me, and it's never left, and I don't think it will. Because as silly as it then is, I struggled to put the jumper back on because it was a thought of, do I really own this title? It was so deep from such a little comment. And eventually, you do wear it again, and you do, you get over your thought, and you let other people's comments pass you by, because they're never really meant for you, are they? No, they're more meant for themselves and their life. But in the moment, that's not easy to think about, is it?
And sometimes I think you can say stuff without really thinking.
Oh.
But then at the same time, you have to be so careful with your words.
Absolutely.
And like you say, it was probably more about them than it actually was intended at you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I find so many of us do that as well without even realising we have our own stuff going on, and we try and not even consciously but deflect it onto others.
Yeah.
But obviously that has an impact. So.
Yeah, hugely, doesn't it? Hugely. And what worries me is people not having someone to let it all out at. Not having that support, not having that, oh, do you know what they just said to me? Like, I do this to my mum all the time. Mum, what now, Gemma? But it's a way to offload, and my mum will very quickly rationalise and make me accountable to my actions, you know, and I think that's important. And if people don't have that, I don't know how, I want to say how they survive, and I don't mean that in a very dramatic way, but I don't know how they get through, because it must just bring you down. But
and I wonder if that's why there is so many of us struggling as well, not obviously solely that, but obviously your mental health plays a huge part in how you feel and how you, I find anyway, how you manage just being a parent anyway.
Absolutely.
So you think like how many people don't have that? And is that why? Because the village, as we say in quotation marks, is lacking for so many people now. It's frightening, really.
Well, absolutely. And then does it become isolating if you don't have someone to share? And you have it's easy to say, have your girls around you, the other mums around you. If you find yourself quite low in that support, then it's very easy to then become isolated in your thought process and alone in how you think you should be parenting, or how you think your day should go, and I think it's very quickly for thoughts to change and become negative, and to then speak out when you're already in that place, for someone to then, and I know I'm digressing, it's but for someone to then say, oh, do you want to speak to somebody in mental health? No. I don't want a label. I don't want something official. I just need a really good friend, and I think if we can have that, from professionals as well, so that the village has become wider, in that people, that maybe it's just the care element, maybe that's what gets me, that the caring from people lacks across the board.
Definitely. And it's that thing, isn't it, of once you get into that mindset, and if you start thinking like, oh, I feel like this today, I'm not a good parent, I feel like this and this, you then kind of think, well, no one will want to speak to me anyway, and it can spiral, can't it?
Absolutely.
And then you stop yourself even from reaching out or looking for support, and like you say, once you're isolated, it's hard to kind of reach back out of that, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Okay, how do you feel? Everyone always says that this is like quite a big question. How do you feel about parenting? Good, bad? Has it changed you? Do you have any regrets?
I think it's well hard. I mean, it is really tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is everything and nothing that I expected. And I just don't think, I just don't think it can be boxed.
No.
And I think that's where we're going with things now, that we're trying to unbox something that tried to be so uniform for a long time. And it's well difficult. I don't know. I think that there's no rules and there's no understanding, because every parent is different, every child is different, and that can be from one minute to the next. Not even just their personalities, like their mood swings, our mood swings.
And that's it. And like, you've got 3 children, and every single child is different. Like your eldest, and you do whatever, and then your next one comes along, and it's like,
oh right, hang on, this worked last time, and now this isn't working, and they're doing this, and oh my God. And
I often say, I wonder how my eldest would have been behaviour-wise if he'd have been second or third, or how my third, free spirit that he is, would have been if he had a few more rules like the first, and how they'd have been, because I am a different mum to each of them, not intentionally.
This is something that I've talked about in one of my other podcasts, and I never say his name right because my pronunciation is awful, but it's Gabor Mati, I think. And he's a psychotherapist or psychologist or something like that. And there's a thing on Instagram of him talking about this, and he says how every child gets a different parent because you're at a different life stage, and it's really, really interesting. And I watched that and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so true.
I feel so tight on my eldest.
No.
So tight. And it's silly, isn't it? Because, as we said, when you have your first and you wrap them up in cotton wool and you want to protect them and you want to give them everything, and then they throw it back in your face once they start to talk. But it's different, isn't it? Like, by the time I got to my third, I was like, dude, sleep in the bottom drawer, like dress yourself. And it was just so different.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously being silly with it, and that's fine. But my mentality was so different. My understanding of what a baby or a child needed from me was so different to my first. And then, the middle child, they would just have to come along with it all.
And I don't know if you found this, but I think with your first, I was so kind of concerned about doing it right, again, quotation marks.
Yeah.
And then when my next one came along, I felt more confident in myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I know that I'm a good parent, and I'm not that bothered about what they say I should do. Like, I'm going to do what's best for her now.
Yeah, absolutely. I always said having more children, I don't mean 3, but maybe 2 was my limit, but as in the respect of having more than one child made me a better parent, because I could understand more and I could reevaluate and I could change my processing. The third child definitely threw up some more about me, when I did quite struggle when, I'm not sure if you should say this, it probably sounds really awful, but I did struggle when we found out we were expecting, and it wasn't because there was a baby, and we could do that. That wasn't a problem. I can care for a child, I can love a child. That was never the problem. It was a case of, we're going to have to change the car, and we've only got 2 small bedrooms for the kids, and we're going to need something else, and then we're going to need this. I'd kept everything from the other 2, so it wasn't like we would be short of anything, but it was just the material side of things, the changes to the house. And actually, I remember, because there's only like 17 months and 2 years between them, all 3 of them, I got to the point of thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I sat in the rocking chair one day, and I was still breastfeeding my daughter when I found out I was pregnant, and that threw a curveball. She was, as I say, like 17. Oh no, younger than that. However old she was, less than 17 months or so. However old she was, I was then panicked because I wasn't out of that baby stage with her yet, and all of a sudden something else was going to be attached to me in such a short space of time. And yeah, I think I didn't know how I could be a good mum to 3 beings that were going to need me, because my eldest needed me. He was only 3 when my third was born. They were so little, and I look back at pictures now, and I recently said it in our family chat. I was like, I don't know how I did that, and a lot of the time I didn't. There were some dark days, weeks. I was so my expression would, and again it sounds dramatic, but my expression was, I felt like I was in the trenches. And I was in there. And I was alone.
Like, you definitely were in the trenches.
But the black cloud was there.
Yeah.
And when I first went for one of my first midwife appointments with my third, and she said to me, "Are you okay?" And I mean, like, I'd cried a lot. And again, it wasn't because we were having a baby. That was wonderful. I didn't know how I was going to manage 3. And she said, "Oh, shall we refer you to the mental health?" I was like, "No, because I'm going to clam up. I just need to process. I need time. I'll do it." But also the other element of things was, I'd been so lucky with 2 beautiful children, incredible labours. No one gets this lucky a third time. And I had that, it's like I was spoiling it for myself, because I couldn't quite believe that this would all be okay. And we were, very lucky that, I don't know, very fortunate in our family to have the 3 beautiful children, wonderful births, no complications, and 3 healthy babies to bring home. And I think I had guilt over that hadn't even happened. So there was a lot of,
and I think if you're not preparing yourself for another, it's a shock, isn't it? That takes a lot of processing as well. And
absolutely.
It changes the whole family dynamic, doesn't it?
It does massively. I was so certain with our first, it was, well, we're married now, and we'll try and we'll have a baby if we can, and we'll see what comes of it. It was all very relaxed, all very easy. That's fine. When my eldest was only 5 months old, I had a miscarriage. And I didn't know. I was away from home. We'd gone to visit my sister in Portsmouth, and so I had my eldest with me, and then I was very poorly while we were away for the weekend. And that in itself, there was a moment where I just thought, no, I need a baby. I need to have a baby. And I couldn't explain it. I couldn't make sense of it, because I'm not very good with loss. I'm not one to replace anything. And I really struggled. And fortunately, I got pregnant again just a few months later. So I had these 2 beautiful babies that were planned and prepared for, like you say. And then all of a sudden, I think because, it's never a case of not wanting, is it? But it's purely a case of, how do I now prepare? And that took me a while, in the midst of black clouds and dark days, and it was a lot. Absolutely. But where do you turn to for that? It's difficult, isn't it? You turn to your people you trust. And
I think with that as well, it's that thing of, like you've mentioned, of like, you're very lucky, or you felt very lucky to be in that situation. And obviously there's people that can't be in that situation. So I think it's kind of like, I don't know if condition's the right word, but conditioned into you to know, I have to be happy and grateful and this and that, and it's okay not to feel those things. It's okay to be like, fuck, what are we gonna do, type thing, we're all on our own paths, and as much as we can empathise and feel for other people that aren't in our situation and desperately want to be, we've still kind of got to follow our own path. We still feel how we feel. We can't change that. I guess it's kind of how we vocalise that, and it's having that safe place, isn't it, to be able to be honest and let those feelings out, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, like, making sure that you're okay with having time to deal and process, and not having your shit together has been the best thing as a mantra for me in my life, because everyone that knows me, I do not have my shit together ever.
So I feel like you need to give us a couple of examples. A couple in particular that I'm thinking of. A couple of skills.
So actually, Emma, I sent you those in great confidence. Do you know what? I am so self-conscious, and so I've had to learn to laugh. And I mean, it's a lot easier when people are laughing at you, I'm not going to lie. So that's why I shared. So there was this one day, I was doing really well. I had everything up to date on my parent app. I knew what was going on, she says. And we set off to school, being the hero that I am, and it was the fancy dress day, and everyone was dressed up. We'd had meltdowns about what one wanted to be, one didn't want to dress up. So, it's stressful.
Yeah.
And I got to near school and I'm driving past. I was like, oh, they've forgotten to dress up. That's a real shame. I really feel for that child. So I carried on driving. I was like, oh, there's a lot of people that I've forgotten. Oh, shit. Fortunately, Adam's house is only around the corner, so I rang him and I was like, that spare uniform that you've got, I'm going to have to bring the kids round because mine are all dressed as princesses. With fancy dress, and it's not actually fancy dress until next Friday. Like, oh, and the kids just looked at me and they were like, oh, wow, good one, Mum, please don't make me go in like this. But it all turned out, they weren't even late. Like, I hold that as a win.
Yeah,
they weren't even
definitely
late.
a win. And it was like I said to you at the time, how normally it's the other way around, isn't
absolutely.
it? Like, you get to school in the uniform, but, you know, you got it right.
Yeah,
just the
I
wrong
did.
day.
Absolutely. We were just doing a practice run, that's all. I dread to think of the other time because I feel like there's two, so you might have to...
It was a strike day incident, I think,
Oh,
wasn't there?
oh, was there? Oh, my days. Right, I'm not being funny, but having 3 children is like 15.
Yeah.
So that's my excuse. The first 2 were in school, or they weren't in school. Both of their classes, thankfully, were on strike. I thought. But the little one, when he was in nursery, well, I just didn't send him in. Because you wouldn't, would you?
Yeah,
like, I'm not doing a
Yeah.
nursery run when the other 2 were at home. That's a battle I am not picking.
Yeah.
I got my dates wrong on that as well. So, we'd had a lovely chilled morning and and I'm normally get up and go.
Yeah.
Get up, get showered, get on. Well, this morning I wasn't, was I? It was all sat chilled and messing. I'd gone for a shower, but I was still just lazing about, and my phone goes, and it was school. Now, I'm a governor at school.
Right.
Just a parent governor,
So,
just to really set the tone of this. I'm doing really well. I feel like I'm the token governor. Here she is. So the phone rings and I thought, oh, it's the office, it'll be about something. Hi, you all right? Yeah, Gemma, are you? I said, yeah, really good. How's everything? Yeah, I just wondered why the kids weren't in school. I was like, well, because it's a strike day, isn't it? No, Gemma, no, it's not a strike day. I was like, oh, I thought we had like a couple of days. We were like, yeah, no, can you bring the kids in? At 11 o'clock in the morning, I strolled in with the kids and the kids were fuming.
I
They
bet
were
they
like,
were.
what do you mean it's not a day at home? How could you do this to me? Oh, but there's been so many things. And I think, do you know what? If you don't laugh, you get caught in such a negative cycle. But it's hard to laugh. And I had a long time not laughing and feeling self-conscious and feeling silly. So yeah.
And the thing is, we're human.
Absolutely.
Like, do you know what I mean? We make mistakes, and people
Yeah.
normally do it the other way around. But and,
I like to be
it's-
different.
It's just it's one of them, isn't it?
Yeah,
And like
absolutely.
you say, like
But if you don't share, and yet it goes around chat groups, or occasionally I might put it on Facebook or wherever just for a laugh, because people will take it in good heart, but it makes someone else feel better.
yeah.
The amount of
That's it.
stories.
How many people
Yeah.
do? I mean, I was dropping my girls off at a dance rehearsal, and I saw another mum from school's daughter, and I just overheard her saying, "Oh," and she's a bit older than my youngest, and she was like, "Oh, my mum dropped me off at the gate and went, and she didn't know it was teacher training day. I've had to go in and go in holiday club all day. And it was the way she told it. So I messaged my friend and I was like, oh, what did you do? She was like, oh my God, I feel so bad. But her daughter had, best ever.
Absolutely.
And, it really made me laugh. But we all do these things.
Yeah, completely.
And
that's why we're lucky to be able to share it, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because the amount of times that I've read someone else's post and thought, I'll never do that.
Well.
How do you get it? Let me tell you, not only will I do it, I'll top it. Honestly. I don't even think I answered your question.
It's fine, don't worry. I think in a roundabout way, any regrets? Has it changed you?
Oh, yeah, from the minute. One of my biggest things was I had this overwhelming feeling when my first was born of how selfish I was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like overwhelming, and I couldn't process I couldn't put makeup on. These people that spend time in the morning putting makeup on and doing the hair, what is that about? But they only think of themselves. They never think of anyone else. They do not know that there's babies and there's children. And I really found it a massive shock. Not that I had to think of someone else. I don't mean that. It was that my life didn't revolve around just me or us anymore. There was so much, but it opened my eyes because there's so much more to think about, isn't there? And so I think for that side of things, it absolutely changed me a lot for the better. Sometimes maybe not always for the better when you realise how short your patience is, or doesn't always show my greatest moments, I'm not gonna lie. How my organisational skills aren't the best, but at the end of the day, when you're lucky enough to have children and they love you and you love them, and you can forget all the other stuff, can't you?
None of it matters.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
No.
At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, none of that matters.
No. When you find your perspective with a glass of wine and a very quiet, dark room, you can really love your family. I'm so sorry. This isn't the parenting podcast.
This is what we want. It's honest, raw, real. That's what this is about. We don't want none of the usual sugar-coated bullshit. No. We want the nitty-gritty stuff.
But no regrets. You've got to learn from what goes on, and you've got to...
Yeah, definitely.
I think you've got to be ready to develop constantly, because if this was a job, you'd have your training, you'd be on constant courses. And so I think you've got to apply that to yourself and to your life, and you've got to be willing to change. Yeah,
definitely. I think you're the first person that said that, actually.
All right.
That's really interesting.
I mean, my family might disagree.
Is there anything in your life that has shaped how you parent that you're happy to talk about? Any situations, circumstances that have affected this?
Yeah, probably. I think because so background of my life, I think I've probably always had, or for a very long time, had anxiety. I'm really good at overthinking. Change the narrative there, it's not a negative. And I do worry, and I create situations, and if I don't, they come out in my dreams when I sleep. So, I think there's always been that, but for a long time I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I think my day-to-day mood level is generally quite low.
Right.
I'm not a hyper, really happy person. I'm really good at putting the act on, but I come home exhausted. Yeah. And I need to completely decompress, and I end up wearing myself out with it. So when things were like that, but my life became children, and I was a stay-at-home mum, very lucky that I had that role and I had that time with them. And this is going to sound terrible, but that I felt at the time is all I had.
Right.
Was 3 children at home, and I was lost, completely lost to it. And one of my thought processes when I started to acknowledge how I was feeling was that, am I being a martyr to motherhood? Yeah. Have I just completely lost myself, and am I willing to pull myself out? Because I thought giving everything of me made me the right mum.
Yeah.
So through all of that, I eventually, I think Millie, she was only 10 months old. It was a really hard family time. And I ended up reaching out, and I spoke to Minds Matter, and I went to CBT. And it couldn't have been timed any better. It was incredible to speak, because one of my things is, it's not that I can't be honest. I am terrified of being honest.
Right.
And I know I've messaged you before, and I've said, I don't know how you write. You write. I'd love to. I'd love to be able to write as honestly as you do, because I can't let it out. I am terrified of upsetting someone or saying the wrong thing. So all of that bottled up at CBT didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was someone that could help. And then from then on, it went on to things like, I spoke to my mum especially a lot more about how I was feeling, and acknowledged feelings, and she said, I'm glad you've said that, because I've always known that, but it needed to come from me.
Yeah.
So that gave relief. And then eventually I went to the doctors, and they gave me antidepressants. And I really struggled with that, because at the time it was, I'm not depressed. I've got nothing to be depressed about, and that was my thought process until I understood the process of, if this is a chemical reaction and I need a tablet to balance that chemical, that's just like a hormonal tablet.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm going to take it. I don't need to be depressed. I just need to be level.
Yeah.
So, but that took a long time, a lot of tears, a lot of thought processing. And I had to change my patterns of behaviour. And it even came to things like social media, and I allowed myself to unfollow people, which sounds really silly, because of course you can do that. And even if it, say for example, Stacey Solomon, well, she's brilliant, but oh my days, I haven't got the time to do what she does. So why is that making me feel bad?
Yeah.
Why am I giving myself? Absolutely. Yeah. Why am I putting this on myself? Yeah. I need to get rid. I won't miss what I don't see. Anna Mather. I want Martha.
Yeah, I don't know how you say it. I'm rubbish with pronunciation.
But she has been a beacon of light. And I would absolutely recommend her. And I know a friend of ours is into her as well now, and it's just brought so much relief about so many things I didn't even know were a thing. And just highlights things. So, going back to your question, because of that, I just want the kids to be happy.
Yeah.
I really felt like I felt for such a long time I didn't find the joy in the little things. I didn't laugh.
Yeah.
And I love a laugh. Like, I had a ridiculous loud laugh that you've already heard, but that freedom and the relief that laughter brings, and the fun. I don't remember having fun. It was stressful. I had kids. I was being a mother to 3 children. What more do you want from me? Was my mentality of, just get on with it. Get up, get on, get out for the day, look after the kids, go to bed. And it was like Groundhog Day. For me, it was, now I'm at this point, and the kids are that little bit older, and things have changed for us now in how more independent they are, even for their ages, that for me personally, I'm relieved. And I think that that gives me that time to be able to say to him, let's have fun, or let's be more relaxed. Don't stress about the stuff that doesn't really matter. But that's easy to say here on a podcast. It's hard to live it in your daily life.
That's it. And like you said about breaking those patterns, like that's something that's so hard to do. And once you're stuck in a rut of routine or whatever else, that can be the hardest thing to change.
Absolutely.
Like I kind of found this as well. And there's there's an Instagram account I just want to mention. I think I've probably mentioned it before, but she's called Emma, and her account's called The Playful Den. I don't know if you follow her.
Right.
She's a mum of 3, but she's all about bringing play into your lives. And there's this thing, isn't there, like as an adult you have to be serious and sensible, and she kind of shows how that isn't the case, and why we should be still experiencing play and having fun and stuff. And I found that really helpful, because I obviously, like, you know, about like my anxiety and all that kind of stuff, and I was similar. I wasn't laughing, didn't have fun, and now the stuff that I'll do and I'll think to do, and I'll think, why have I not done that before? Like, what was going on? But
even things have just been at the playground, and making a fool of yourself, and that doesn't come easy to me, and yet the outcome of it all, the tears that roll because you all end up having such a good time, and then it's not letting the guilt afterwards, or why haven't I done it soon, not causing yourself a headache just because you did have fun. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
And it's that not overthinking afterwards of, did someone see me doing that? I hope they didn't think that I was. It's that self-consciousness as well, I find as well,
definitely.
Isn't it? Like,
but spur of the moment things, if the thought, if you can just think, I think I'm going to try, I'm going to do it. Because the kids will change. And their reaction towards you.
And do you not love seeing their faces when you do something that they
don't
expect, and they're like, what's she doing? Like,
for a long time, my eldest thinks he's the bee's knees at running, and he's very good. And he's always giving it to my sister, especially. I can beat you. She's like, well, you can't. But and then one day, it was ages ago now, we were down at the beach and we were walking back to the car, and I just said to him, I'll race you back to the car. Well, his eyes shot out of his head. He didn't know what to do. I'd already set off. He was still processing what I was saying.
Going on?
And he legged it, but I beat him. And to this day, he's not lived it down. But I think he loved the fact, just that, well, I did beat him. And I did do it.
And that's it. And it's even something as small as that.
Absolutely.
That, you know, to just start making those changes, breaking patterns, doing the fun stuff.
We went on a fairground ride last weekend. I got hiccups because I was laughing so much. It was just, if you could bottle joy, it was that moment of two kids in beside me in this daft ride, and it was absolute bliss. It was wonderful. But why do we stop ourselves from doing these wonderful things? I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't think I answered that question either.
What is your biggest value when it comes to parenting?
I think it's that I'm their person. And that no matter what, I have confidence in knowing that they have somewhere to go. And I don't mean a home. It's probably the wrong thing. I don't know how to really describe it. That they've got so much around them and so many people, but having that relationship as a mother is everything to them and to me. Do you know? And I don't think I'm explaining it at all.
No, I know what you mean.
But that they can come to me in any state. That it won't matter. That I'm going to shout at them. I'm going to hold them accountable for their actions. Not the good old story of, well, what did you do for them to do that? I'm not going to believe them every time. I'm going to hold them because you want them to be the best that they can be. But no one will love them the way that I love them. And that's not being harsh on any other family member or their dad or anything else. That is just the way that I feel as a mother's love often is and is for me. And that is special for us. I don't know, just that they've got someone who values them. That you despite the fact of it in previous years being a negative, that I was so into motherhood, that now it's my payback, that they come to me, they talk to me, they want to be around me. And it's not all as wonderful as that by any accounts. I get plenty of leave me alone. Why are you so mean to me? But I think it's just the fact that I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel lucky in that.
Someone tagged me in a quote yesterday. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Let me just quickly see if I can find it, because I feel like it's very much like on that that kind of thing. Oh, that's join them in their world when they're little, so you'll be welcome in their world when they are big.
Absolutely.
And it's that kind of thing, isn't it? Like you put your all into motherhood, and they know that, you know, they
come home and you're their home. Yeah, which sounds really soppy and it's not normally quite like me, but that for me has been everything that I ever wanted. You can take all your materialistic approach to life. You can be everything the world wants you to be, but at the end of the day, when their little arms wrap around you, that for me is the greatest and most, I don't know, maybe the most valued, but maybe twisted your meaning on it, but
no,
that's us.
What has been your biggest challenge so far?
Definitely the kids. It's got to be the kids. I am a great parent when the kids are involved.
You're making it really hard for me to be the parent that I want to be today.
It's definitely all on them. It's not me at all. No, I think that change in myself has been hard, because you have to accept a lot about yourself, the good and the bad. And no one wants to acknowledge the bad stuff and your bad habits. And
I think sometimes, I mean, I don't know what your children are like in comparison to you, but sometimes you see stuff mirrored and it's like, oh, whoa. Yeah. Like, I find mine will say stuff and then I'll just hear myself and I'll be like, oh my God. Yeah. Like, wow, do I say that? Yes, I do say that.
We have a pecking order. So the telling off goes from me to my eldest, and then he tells the other two off. Then my daughter's now started telling the younger stuff, and I'm like, no, I do the telling off. If I get one thing as being a mum, I've got to do this.
Yeah. I don't know how many times I say, you are not the parent. I will deal with this.
Yeah, but you said, and I'm like, yeah, I did say, but I said it to you, and I didn't say for you to pass it on. But so that's hard, isn't it?
And do you find, sorry to interrupt again, do you find, because you're the oldest, aren't you, do you find that in yourself? Like, I know that I'm the eldest, and that was
I was horrible to my sister.
Me, like,
because there's 10 years between us as well.
I was going to say, there's a similar age gap between you and your sister as me and mine.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, who do you think you are? I was a second mother to her, in all my, not in a nice way. It was horrible. Like, I remember, there was I was horrible to her. Like, I hold her to high expectations, and like, she's probably achieved them. She won't listen to this, so it's fine. But I held her accountable for a lot that I shouldn't have. Everyone was on her case.
I always say it's like the curse of the eldest.
Yeah,
it's like just being the eldest, you have this role.
Yeah. I remember saying to her once, probably not that many years ago actually, do you realise how lucky you were?
I don't think I've used that one yet actually. Thank you.
Quick, mark it down.
Bank that one.
They practice on me and you had a right easy time of it. Out all the time, you had sleepovers whenever you wanted. My mum being, because you had a really hard time, Gem, didn't you? Absolutely, I'm glad we can acknowledge that. But to be fair, she has done it the other way. So because there's such a, she'll kill me. Because there's such a big age gap, we always had Santa presents. Well, obviously, because I was 10 when she was born, and her Santa presents were coming. Oh, you get to a point where Santa doesn't always give to the older children, but Santa couldn't bring to her and not me. So she still says, Gemma got way more years of Santa presents than I did.
Scarred that,
it has. Absolutely. Oh, it's so funny.
What do you wish you could change about parenting in general, as in for everyone?
Oh, I really struggled with this. And in my wonderful note section that I had to write up, I've got nothing. Because, I don't know. You want to say support, but that's just easy to say because, as we've already touched on, if you don't have someone physically that pops in and checks on you, then... But thank goodness for social media and the way that this works and the way that your group works and your meetups and things like that, because that takes that isolation. And even if you don't get, you know, a reaction from it, someone at home, I feel like it'll make me emotional, but someone at home is doing better just because they've read something, because they're not alone. Yeah. They feel they can connect. Yeah. And I think that if you could give anything to anyone, it would be that you wouldn't be alone. Yeah. Not in those dark days, but not in the good days either. Because parenthood, motherhood, whoever's was always meant to be shared. Yeah. And it was always meant to be a together. Yeah. I feel. And I am lucky to have that, and again, that brings guilt because others don't, but yeah, I find for myself, when you actively try and do your little bit for other people, I back off when people are having the good times. Yeah, you wish well, you and I genuinely couldn't be happier for people, but it's when I know that someone is struggling breastfeeding, or when someone is maybe separating and their family dynamic is changing, that's where my heart goes. And I'm very lucky that I am able to talk to a lot of people, not because I do anything, but through even just working through Body Shop, and having my own little group. People wanted to talk, and my inbox was often constant, and it was wonderful because someone felt they could reach out to you just because you'd said something elsewhere, and I think meeting people where they're struggling is one of the greatest gifts that you could ever give to anyone, and that's what I'd change.
And sometimes that's all it takes to turn someone's day around.
Absolutely,
is just to see someone and connect with them in some way, or say something that
because you know how valuable it was to you, and will be in your next time of need, because nothing's ever guaranteed. No. There's always moments, and I just think to meet someone where they're struggling, that would be my biggest thing.
Amazing. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to follow, review and share with other parents you know. You can now listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music and Google Podcasts. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please get in touch via any of my social media channels, website or email. Thank you, Gemma, for joining me on today's podcast. It's been great to have you, and thank you to everyone for listening.